Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 12-team PPR mock draft from the 11th overall spot using FantasyPros Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's mock are going to be 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex kicker, defense, and 5 bench spots. Before we do get into this mock draft, though, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to leave a like on today's video. So the mock draft begins with Jamar Chase, followed by Bijan Robinson, Malik Neighbors, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua, and Nico Collins. Now, out of all of the players to go so far inside of the first round through the first 10 picks, I think that is a very normal top 10 players. Now, some of the players are out of order, right? I don't really think in a lot of leagues you're going to be able to get Saquon Barkley at the 107, despite the fact that he is falling down draft boards because of the rise of Bijan Robinson. I don't think in a lot of leagues Malik Neighbors is going to go at the 103. I think guys like CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson are going to go above him in a majority of leagues. So while some of the picks are a little bit out of order, I do believe this is a very normal top 10 picks. Now, in some leagues, it will be more running back heavy early on, but the tides have really shifted towards a much more wide receiver heavy first round. So we're up at the 1.11. The only running backs gone are Bijan, Saquon Barkley, and Jahmyr Gibbs, meaning that at the 111, if you like Derrick Henry as your running back 4, he is still available. Ashton Jeanty, Devon Achane, as well as Christian McCaffrey. In terms of the wide receivers, bdge, Drizzy Drake, London are the best wide receivers available. Based upon how this draft has fallen, to me, it reeks of being a double hero running back draft, meaning we draft 2 running backs right off the rip, and then we wait until we select another running back for a while and jam the wide receiver position. Now, you could go bdge and then in the next round go with the running back, but I just really love the running backs in this range. And again, I love bdge, I love Drake London, and there's a possibility that one of or both of them fall our way, so I don't want to lock us in to doing a double hero running back strategy. But when only 3 running backs come off the board through the first 10 picks, I think that is a very smart move. So for me, we're going to go ahead and go with Ashton Jeanty. I have Devon Achane ranked higher. If you want to go with Devon Achane, that's fine, but we haven't really taken Ashton Jeanty in a draft in a while. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to sit towards the end of the first round in a majority of drafts. The Raiders offense is relatively underrated in my opinion. I'm not going to sit here and give the Gawk Gawk 9000 special to the Raiders offensive unit, but I do believe that Gumshoe and Pete Carroll will be able to whip things up into shape there and have a much better producing offense, especially when you compare the Raiders offense to just a couple over the last couple of years, right, where the quarterback play wasn't as good. I don't think Geno Smith is really all that, but he is definitely much better than the quarterback play that they have had. Ashton Jeanty, in my opinion, is a clear workhorse running back on the Raiders. They have other running backs on a team like Raheem Mostert, but none of those guys can hold the jockstrap of Ashton Jeanty, so I feel very confident with him in Vegas. We all know Pete Carroll learned of his old ways, not hanging the ball off on the 1-yard line, throwing the ball instead for the complete and utter disaster of a Super Bowl that was. So Ashton Jeanty is going to get fed the rock. A lot of people are nervous because Bijan Robinson absolutely railroaded them in his rookie year a couple of years ago, but there's a big difference here. We're dealing with Pete Carroll, and Bijan Robinson got absolutely face-fucked by the usage of Arthur Smith, because we all know Arthur Smith is a complete and utter clown. Honk honk. After Ashton Jeanty, Christian McCaffrey, and then A.J. Brown. It's nice to see Christian McCaffrey finally get the respect of a lot more people and just unanimously go inside of the first round. I get there's a lot of risk in taking Christian McCaffrey, but you don't win your league necessarily making the safest decisions, right? For me, I am trying to win my league. If I come in third, job's not finished, right? I want the trophy. I want all the money. I want to come in first place. I want all the glory, and Christian McCaffrey has that upside to bring the glory back home to the Notorious household. Ashton Jeanty, I love him too. So between Jeanty, McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, as well as Achane, I think there's a good argument to be made for any of those running backs to be be your running back 4. I have Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Saquon as my top 3. McCaffrey and A.J. Brown go at the turn. I love Brian Thomas Jr. We have talked about him recently in that wide receiver video that it was either like I'd bet my house, I'd bet my mortgage on bdge because I feel very confident in him this season. This guy was the #1 wide receiver in all of fantasy football in the fantasy football playoffs. I think he could easily finish as a top 3 wide receiver this year with the Liam Cohen offense. But again, when I am able to start off my draft with Ashton Jeanty and Devon Achane, even though I am much more wide receiver pilled than I had been in the past, I just believe when you can start with a running back that, I think Ashton Jeanty could be the RB1. I think the same exact thing about Devon Achane, so I'm going to go with that. Now, if you want it to be a little bit safer and you're more worried about Tua, right, and you're like, okay, Ashton Jeanty was enough of a risk because he's a rookie, I want to go with the safer bet, then you can go with Derrick Henry, who I love as well in Baltimore. That's going to be one of the most run-heavy offenses in the NFL, but for me, I'm going to go ahead and, even if it's a little bit more risky to you, I'm going to go ahead and get Jeanty and Achane when Tua Tagovailoa is healthy. Devon Achane has a crystal clear path like the shoe of Cinderella to become the running back 1 in fantasy football after Devon Achane. Do I not know how to read? Devon 2 Chains, bdge, Drizzy Drake London, Jackson Smith Najigba, Brock Bowers, Kyron Williams, Garrett Wilson, Lad McConkey, Rashee Rice, Derrick Henry, Trey McBride, Chase Brown opens up the 3rd round, followed by Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, Breece Hall, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Josh Allen, Kenneth Walker, and Josh Jacobs. The second drafter here, a high T draft going 3 running backs in a row. Now, do I think in a full PPR league you should necessarily be going to draft thinking, I need to draft 3 running backs off the rip? No. Frankly, I think that's a little bit crazy. But in a league where you only need to start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex, I mean, Bijan, Henry, Bucky, that could be the RB1, 2, and 3 on the season. Am I necessarily do I love that strategy? No. But based upon how this draft has fallen, being so wide receiver heavy early on, I really do like that start, even though it is definitely a little bit unorthodox in my opinion. So best player available according to Fantasy Pros is Lamar Jackson. Personally, I am not someone that is super high on drafting a quarterback early. Can you draft a quarterback early and win your league? Yes, you could draft a kicker in the 1st round and still end up winning your league, right? But to me, there's just so many great running backs, wide receivers in this range that I want to attack, especially the wide receiver position, that I just don't feel comfortable clicking on Lamar Jackson, Jaden Stormy Daniels, or Jalen Hurts, especially in a lot of leagues where Jalen Hurts could be available in the 5th round of some leagues, right? And there's value later at quarterback. Guys like Justin Fields. And sure, I get Lamar Jackson is 9,000 times safer than Justin Fields, right? Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. These are guys that wrap a condom around your team at the quarterback position. But for me, I feel a lot better about my wide receivers in this range, especially going running back start. I don't like a quarterback here. Now, I love George Kittle. I'm a big fan of him. But am I really going to draft him inside of the 3rd round if I start double running back? Probably not. If he falls to me in the 4th round, it would be hard for me not to take him. But in the 3rd round here, I think I'm going to go with a wide receiver based upon team construction. Now, if we went running back, wide receiver to start off, right? Say, instead of Devon Achane, we went Jeanty and bdge, or we went Jeanty and Drizzy Drake London, then I would be much more likely to take the tight end, but I don't want to fall super behind at the wide receiver position. So we're going to go with Davante Adams here. Davante Adams seems like a guy that's just going to rise up in fantasy football drafts. It just, to me, appears that people are too low on him. This is a guy that you could make the argument is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, even at his old age. Now, I do have Puka Nacua, and I'm a big fan of Puka, and I do believe he's the #1 in this offense, but I do think that there could be 2 wide receivers coexisting in this offense, right? You think of T. Higgins and you think of Jamar Chase last season, right? Both guys that had phenomenal seasons. I think that the LA Rams Rams with Sean McVay, with Matthew Stafford, this is an offense that can complement both wide receivers at the same time. You know, Davante Adams is an absolute beast inside the red zone. This guy with 10-plus touchdown upside. Again, in a great Rams offense with a great quarterback in Matthew Stafford, I think a lot of people are overthinking Davante Adams because he's old, and people hate drafting these old players in fantasy football. You always get the nice UNC discount. You get the same thing on a guy like James Conner at the running back position. You get that Tyreek Hill discount for the down season. He's older. People start to panic. They get their panties in a bunch. Don't worry about Davante Adams. I love him inside of the third round after Davante Adams, Lamar Jackson, and Terry McLaurin. So we got Ashton Genty, Devon Achane, and Davante Adams to start off our draft. And while I like Marvin Harrison Jr. a ton, while I like DK Metcalf, I'm fine drafting DJ Moore, Mike Evans. I don't love James Cook, if I'm being honest with you. This is a guy that just scored 1 gazillion touchdowns last season. And frankly, I don't think it's very likely that he gets 16 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns again. Now, anything is possible, as they say, right? So nothing is an impossibility, right? But I think more than likely that number decreases, and if that number decreases, he probably finishes outside the top 12 at the running back position. Now, you're getting him as the running back 16, but to me, he was just so touchdown dependent last year, and I could really see the offense trying to utilize Ray Davis more in the red zone. You know Josh Allen's going to vulture a decent amount of rushing touchdowns as well. So I just kind of do the Dikembe no on James Cook. I just don't feel comfortable taking him. So to me, the clear pick here is George Kittle. This guy could easily be the tight end 1 in fantasy football. Now, I have been a George Kittle detractor for years because of the fact that while he always had these high finishes, he was as unreliable as it gets. You would get one game where he is on top of the world like King Kong beating his chest on top of the Empire State Building. And you're like, hip, hip, hooray. George Kittle's the reason why I won my week. And then the next week, the motherfucker scores 2 fantasy points, right? It was so unpredictable. Last year, he was incredibly easy to predict because he was always really fucking good. He was basically always a top 5 tight end. Now, Christian McCaffrey coming back does, in a way, kind of hurt his safety because you know there's going to be so many dump-offs to McCaffrey, but this is still a wide receiver room that is very difficult to figure out because they don't have Deebo Samuel anymore. So I think the door is still very wide open for George Kittle to score a bunch of touchdowns just like he did last season. Over the last 3 seasons, he scored 8 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns. Again, I think George Kittle is one of the best, if not the best, tight end in the NFL. I believe in Brock Purdy. I believe in this offense. The head coaching staff. Now, while Shanahan will probably end up crumbling like a cookie in the playoffs like he usually does and just do some really stupid shit, I believe heavily in George Kittle during the regular season. So I think George Kittle at that pick, to me, is a complete and utter steal. If you take him in the 3rd round, I don't mind it either, but again, just because of our roster construction, I didn't really want to play that game of waiting on Davante Adams because I do believe I like Davante Adams more than I like Terry or Mike Evans, DJ Moore. So after George Kittle, James Cook, Mike Evans, Wiki, DJ Moore, Jaden, Stormy Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Sam Laporta, Joe Burrow, Marvin Harrison Jr., Tet McMillan, Jalen waddled away, waddle, till the very next day. James Conner, DK Metcalf, Chuba Hubbard, Joe Mixon, Travis Kelce, Cortland Sutton, Chris Olave, Xavier Worthy, RJ Harvey, and Zay Flowers. Now, if you start off your draft with Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall, and then you follow that up with Sam Laporta, I'm questioning your decision-making. Like, I like Justin Jefferson, I like Garrett Wilson, I like Breece Hall. I don't know if I want 2 Jets on the same team. I don't think you should be drafting Sam Laporta in the 4th round, especially when George Kittle just came off the board close to that, because to me, there's just this huge tier at the tight end position that includes guys like Laporta, Kelce, Hawkinson, right? Andrews, right? There's a big tier at tight end. Why take Laporta when you can get Njoku 6 rounds later? Then you follow that up with Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, who apparently can't read. Travis Kelce doesn't know how to read, allegedly, according to what I read on the internet, because he couldn't read, like the SNL table read was hard for him. Look, the guy's going to be more rich than I ever will be. But at least I can read. But shout out to Travis Kelce, who I like a lot in fantasy drafts. But in the 5th round, no. And if you draft a tight end in the 4th and the 5th round, you just lit your buy-in on fire, in my opinion, for your fantasy league. So we're back up on the board. Ashton Genty, Devon Achane, Devontae Adams, and George Kittle, me, Timbers. Now, this is a range at wide receiver that, to me, feels a little bit disgusting. Because I like Devontae Smith as a receiver, but in fantasy, to me, when you take Devontae Smith, you're kind of just being like, I got a safe wide receiver too that you know is not going to let you down. But what is his upside to be that league winner, that top 10 guy? With A.J. Brown healthy, to me, I don't see a path towards that because of how much the team runs the ball, right? I could see Adams and I could see Puka finishing in the top 10. The top 12. I see Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown doing that? No, I do not. Right? Chris Godwin, I like him a lot, but we don't know if he's going to be good to go for week 1. And frankly, if I'm drafting him as my wide receiver 2 on this team, I don't want to take that risk right now. Now, if we get to late August and they're like, oh, guess what? He's actually going to be available week 1, then we're dolphin diving in there. But right now, based on our team construction, it's just a little gross. Now, if we already had 2 wide receivers, I would be all over taking a Chris Godwin in that range. I like Travis Hunter, the player, very nervous about how they're going to utilize him. So to me, I think I'm just going to have to take a running back here because Mahomes, to me, is a terrible pick inside the 5th round. I like Baker, I like Knicks, but I think you can get them falling. So to me, the only real option here is just to get a 3rd running back. Now, we already have the upside high-risk guys on our team, and we're just going to add, I guess, Devon Achane and Ashton Genty aren't high-risk, but to some, they might be. So I believe both those guys are pretty safe. I'm going to go for the more high-risk option, which is Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton could be a stone-cold Steve Austin, 0 LA Knight for the first couple of games of the season. But I believe eventually there's a reason why they drafted him, and it's not because J.K. Dobbins is the bell cow back of the future for the Chargers. Eventually, they're going to hand the keys to Omarion Hampton. We know who J.K. Dobbins is. He is boring as fuck. He is incredibly boring. You know what he is. He gets you like 9 points every week, and if he magically scores a touchdown, hallelujah, you score 15 fantasy points, right? Omarion Hampton, in my opinion, great prospect, great landing spot in the Chargers with Harbaugh, who you know is a run game aficionado on a team that likes to run the ball. Again, is Hampton the most useful player you can draft for week 1? In my opinion, no. But he might even have to sit on the bench for a couple of weeks, but when push comes to shove, week 10, when you're pushing for the playoffs, that's a guy that could be a league-winning hammer piece for you. So I love Omarion Hampton inside of the 5th round, and especially because he's my running back 3, so I don't even have to rely on him early on. At this point, I think I would just take Devontae Smith because he fell to me inside of the 6th round. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of him because I just don't see that top 12 upside. But as my wide receiver 2, when I already have Genty, Achane, and Hampton at running back, I already have Kittle. To me, it's fine to take Smith in this range because of the upside he possesses weekly. Now, had he not have been available, I would have taken the risky shot on Chris Godwin, or I would have went, if you wanted to go a little bit safer, you could go with the Calvin Ridley, the George Pickens, in my opinion. So after Devontae Smith, Baker Mayfield, Evan Ingram, Travion Henderson, Chris Godwin, TJ Hawkinson, Quinshon Judkins, George Pickens, Pat Mahomes, Mark Andrews, Calvin Ridley, the 7th opens with Caleb Johnson, Drake May in the 7th round. I love Drake May. I love Drake May this season. I like his rushing upside. I like what I saw in college. I like the flashes I saw last season. But in the 7th round, when you still have Brock Purdy, who I just view as ultra safe, you still have Justin Fields available to me. Again, it just seems like a stupid pick in the 7th round when you could probably get him in the 12th round in a lot of leagues. After Drake May, Jerry Jeudy, David Montgomery, I like Jerry Jeudy a ton. Dickey, Dak Prescott, Pacheco, Pollard, Travis Hunter, Bo Nix, Juwan Jennings, who I like a ton as well. We still don't have a quarterback, but I want to keep loading up on wide receivers here because, again, I'm not super sold on Devontae Smith having that crazy league-winning upside. And someone who I do think has that league-winning upside is Rome Odunze. Now, last year, you went down with the ship had you have drafted Rome Odunze. Shit was not sweet. It started off bad, and it ended bad. But in between that sandwich was some greatness. We saw some upside. Again, it wasn't consistent, but now with Ben Johnson there, them losing Keenan Allen, they still have DJ Moore, but there's a lot of, kind of negativity spread around the name of DJ Moore, in my opinion. I think Caleb Williams is a great quarterback, and I think he's going to show that this season. I think Rome Odunze could become the wide receiver 1 on the team. Again, he's a chalky breakout pick. I fully agree, but sometimes the chalk hits, right? Sometimes in March Madness, you pick the fucking chalk, you pick UConn, and they absolutely destroy everyone, right? They are breaking the backs of other teams. I think Rome Odunze, while it is a little bit chalky, I do like him. Jordan Addison, I'm a pretty big fan of as well, but I think I'd rather just take the shot on Rome Odunze here. So that is who we are going to go ahead and select with this pick after Rome Odunze, Jordan Addison Ray, and DeAndre Swift. Before we do the rest of this draft, though, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you will get a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash over on Underdog. I love doing their best ball drafts. The best part about best ball is it's the draft, and that's it. There's no waivers, no trades, no in-season management. Underdog automatically puts the highest scores into your lineup at the end of every single week. Their main tournament, Best Ball Mania, $2 million to first place, $25 to enter, $15 million in total prize. They also have smaller contests as well at smaller entry fees. So make sure you guys check that out. It's good practice for your home league. Make sure you guys check out Underdog, promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description. So we still don't have a quarterback. Looking at the teams here, I don't have a quarterback, and Andrew over here doesn't have a quarterback. So to me, we could probably wait. Like, if that AI robot, that clanker, if you guys have seen that on TikTok, how people are just calling robots clankers now. If you've ever been like Stop and Shop, where I don't know if there's like some fucking global brand or something, but there's like a robot thing walking around and people like yelling at it. There's robots that deliver pizza. People don't mess with those robots. I like Kyler, but I am not gonna, shit my pants if Kyler Murray comes off the board before I get to pick again. So we need to keep loading up on wide receivers. Khalil Shakir, to me, I like him a decent amount, but his upside feels kind of capped by the fact that I don't think the Bills really have a true wide receiver 1. It kind of feels like they're kind of like the Packers, where it's like wide receiver 1 by committee, where they've got a million different guys. If you want to say, Nick, who's the safest receiver on Buffalo, it's definitely Khalil Shakir, like comparing him to Keon Coleman. And I think he's fine. But Jacoby Myers is the undisputed wide receiver 1 on the Raiders, a team that I think is going to end up being sneaky decent. Stephon Diggs, the wide receiver 1. Sure, he's an unk. Maybe he starts off slow because he's coming off the injury, but he looked really good in Houston last year with a lot more competition than he has this year. So why am I ever taking Khalil Shakir when I could take Jacoby Myers or Stephon Diggs or Josh Downs, who could be the number 1 receiver on Indianapolis, who jumps off the page in terms of efficiency? We already have a Raider, and while I kind of sound like a Las Vegas Raiders dick rider, which I guess I kind of am at this point, I'm going to go ahead and go with, instead of investing 2 picks on the same team on the Raiders, we'll go with Stephon Diggs. Again, I liked what I saw last season. He tore his ACL early on in the process to where it doesn't seem like it's going to hold him out. He's already been practicing. I'm not too worried. If we get to like late July and the report is, Stephon Diggs, actually, he's having a lot of issues. All right, even though we saw him on the boat with Cardi B, he's having all these issues. Maybe he's not going to be ready early on, or maybe this is going to impact him. Then, you back it up, Tara. You put the thing in reverse. But in the 8th round, for me, Stephon Diggs is just a smash. And this is coming from someone that was a Stephon Diggs detractor last year, because I just didn't like the spot at all with Tank Dell and with Nico Collins. So back up on the clock here, Khalil Shakir, Javonte Williams, Josh Downs, Tyrone Tracy, I'm a scat man, Cam Scatterbo, Zach Charbonnet, Jacoby Myers, Jalen Warren, Ricky Pearsall, Travis Etienne. The 9th opens with Justin Fields, Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, David Njoku, Ramondre Stevenson, Brian Robinson, Brandon Ayuk, Cooper Kupp, Hutton, and Darnell. Here comes the Mooney. So notice, this is a callback from earlier. I said, why would you draft Laporta the 4th when you can get Njoku way later? That's exactly what happened. Njoku goes inside of the 9th round. So a little callback to anyone that was paying attention. So again, I think the smart move here is to just kind of hammer time the wide receiver position again. To me, running back, like, if I wanted to draft Najee Harris or Marion Hampton to guarantee to have the running back one in LA for the whole season, go ahead. Handcuffs to me, like, especially when I'm pulling the trigger in the 9th round, just feels really gross. I'd rather take someone else's handcuff, and then my team is still at full strength, and now I just added another piece to my Thanos gauntlet and have that upside. I love Tajay Spears this season. I think we're going to be talking about him soon. He looked pretty good in 2023. Last year, like this says, he was injured. 2 concussions. Not great. Hammy issue. Sprained ankle. They like Tony Pollard, so I don't think Tony Pollard's necessarily going to get dethroned by Tajay Spears. But from what I've read, and it even says right here, Brian Callahan, head coach of the team, hinted on Spears playing a bigger role, so I do like him a ton. But I think the smart move is to take the receiver first here. And again, we could just keep waiting on quarterback because everyone has a quarterback at this point. Jayden Reed, like, if you think that this receiver room is too risky, just don't draft Jayden Reed, right? Just take someone that, you know, maybe has a little bit safer of a projection. Maybe you'll think Matthew Golden's a little bit safer. I love Jayden Reed this season. I'm a big fan of, again, I know he's not safe. I know this is not like, this team doesn't really have a wide receiver one, but you saw that 30-plus point upside, and if I can just draft that in the 9th round, and if I just have to play him 1 week, he could pop off and win me that game. But since we did draft Jaden Riley Reed recently, I think the move this time is to go with Matthew Golden. It's going to say it's a reach, so we will just go with Tajay Spears instead, and then pick Matthew Golden with the next pick, assuming the computer didn't hear me, and magically he goes, of course he did. Of course he did. The computer was listening to me. They knew exactly what I was going to do. This team picked Jayden Reed and Matthew Golden. That is legitimately fucking the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Sure, draft 2 wide receivers on the same team, but why would you do it back to back in like the 9th or the 10th round? I just would never do something. In best ball, sure, because I'm trying to get that mega stack with Jordan Love, but in a redraft league, maybe that seems a little bit crazy. A little bit crazy, so we don't get either of them. Fuck me, right? Love to see it. We still don't have a quarterback. Again, I'm fine with any of these guys. Kyler last year really let me down, but I do still believe in Kyler Murray. Now, if your home league takes, say, most people in my home leagues, I'd say probably half of them draft 2 quarterbacks in 1 quarterback league, half of them just take 1. I am pretty heavy on the path of just taking 1, and if that guy doesn't work out, you just figure it out down the road. Some people like to have that backup plan. They like to wrap their team in the bubble wrap. I'm going to go Brock Purdy here because, again, if I think in my home league, half the team, I try to treat this like it's a real draft. If I think half the teams are going to take a backup quarterback, I'm going to have to take Brock Purdy here and stack him up with George Kittle. Do you have to stack your quarterback with a tight end or receiver? No, you do not, in my opinion, but I like to when I can get them and when I feel it's fine value, right? I'm not entering into the draft thinking I have to do it. To me, the reason why I like stacking is because every single week you're basically putting out a parlay on your team. You're saying you need Purdy to do this, Genty to do this, all these players, right? But if Kittle has a big game, Purdy's probably having a big game as well. So it's just one piece of the puzzle. Now, again, if Purdy has a disaster game, probably so does Kittle, right? So you get the downside, but you also get the upside with it. And again, I'm always hunting that upside. So we're back up on the clock here. Probably going to close that with a running back and a wide receiver. I like Jalen Wright, but because I have Devon Achane, I'm not, again, trying to take my own handcuff. So we're going to go running back and wide receiver to close things out here. At running back, we're going to take Roschon Johnson because Ben Johnson in the past, who's now the head coach of the Chicago Bears, has been someone that likes to utilize multiple running backs. We saw Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in the past with the Detroit Lions. Maybe Roschon is the David Montgomery to, you know, DeAndre Swift's Jahmyr Gibbs. You know, it's the Walmart version of it. Will that actually play out? Who knows? But that's the thought process behind making a pick like that. And then we will close things out with a wide receiver. And in this draft, we're going to go Cedric Tillman. Now, Cedric Tillman had an interesting season, like that said, right? He had really high highs. He had some low lows. He gets hurt. But week 7, week 8, week 9, top 12 receiver in 3 straight games with 12, 9, and 11 targets. I know Jerry Jeudy's the wide receiver 1, but based on what I saw to Cedric Tillman last year, I'm willing to take that shot on him. Now, this could easily be the player in the past that you draft, right, that has like 3 good games. You know, when you fall for it, was it Isaiah Hodgins for the Giants? Someone tweeted that the other day. Kev did. Yeah, Isaiah Hodgins, right? Where you saw those like 3 games. You draft him, you fall for him. It's a landmine. It's the 12th fucking round. Again, you're looking for upside. I get the quarterback situation in Cleveland is far from ideal because when you have a bunch of quarterbacks like that, you really don't have a single quarterback because you don't know who the real starter is, who the guy is, but I think it's going to be Flacco, at least early on. After Cedric Tillman, Isaac Guerrero, Dallas Goedert, Blake Corum, Luther Burden, Kyle Mongai, Wandale, Robinson Wandale, Mr. 305, Dalton Kincaid, Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd, Will Shipley, Denver Broncos defense, Dicker the kicker, a bunch of defenses, JJ McCarthy as well. So first we're going to go with the kicker because for some reason, they always take defenses first on Fantasy Pros, so I would just pivot to taking the kicker if everyone's ripping off defenses. So we'll go with Brandon Aubrey. Again, you could take any of those kickers. And then for defense, you want to draft a defense that's playing up against a not-so-hot offense in week 1. The rest of the schedule doesn't really matter. Obviously, some defenses are better than others, but you're really just targeting that week 1 matchup. And then after that, you can just switch your defenses every single week. I post a video every single week on defenses to stream. There's going to be a video in August, defenses to draft. And then right before the season starts, there's going to be defense to stream for week 1. Now, the reason why you do this is because while you could draft the best defense, those defenses have tough matchups, right? Say you love the Eagles defense. You love Cooper DeJean. You want to get the Eagles. I get it, right? The Eagles have a great defense. But how often do great defenses repeat as like the best defense? And also great defenses have bad matchups, right? The Rams, they open with Houston and Tennessee. Those are 2 matchups where I think the Rams could have one of the top 3, top 5 defenses in fantasy. And you're getting that edge up every single week on your opponent by streaming defenses. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the LA Rams here. If that thought process kind of sounds a little bit complicated, you will get it more and more because I'm going to talk about it every single week in the mock drafts. And then there'll be a video where it explains it even more. So we got to be, the draft grade does not matter at all. They could have given me an F, right? Like I got in algebra one time in high school. They could give me an A+ like I got in cooking class because I'm Gordon Ramsay. Yeah, so it really wouldn't matter to me. 84 out of 100. We got Brock Purdy, Ashton Genty, Devon Achane, Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith. We got the Devontae combo, the Devontae duo. We got George Kittle, Omarion Hampton, the LA Rams, Brandon Aubrey, and then we got a bench that is comprised of potential big value. Rome Odunze, Stephon Diggs, Ajay Spears, Roshan Johnson, and Cedric Tillman. If I left my draft with this team, I would be bricked up visibly afterwards. I would be looking at this team, fantasizing of what it is going to do to my friends, to my league mates. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below if you enjoyed. I hope you guys had a great 4th of July. I hope you set off some fireworks. And there was nothing wrong that happened. I want to make sure that you check out one of these videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. I love you long time. Have a great one. And as always, good boy.